I know what you just shared about, local small businesses and the support there, but share a little bit about your current role with the SBA.
Sure. So I am with the U.S. Small Business Administration. My primary responsibility is to deal directly with lenders that serve the business owners within our geographic territory. I do deal with business owners directly still, which I love. I tell business owners my door is always open, my phone is always available. I get calls all the time. I'm always willing to help. At the end of the day, everything that we do at this agency is for small business owners.
What are you finding to be the biggest challenges of small business owners in today's environment? What are some of the significant challenges that you're seeing repeatedly over and over again?
Well, there's always a challenge or an interest in obtaining capital for a
Sure.
business. Cash flow is king, as we say. So a lot of business owners understand that they have a need for assistance, but a lot of them really don't know where to go and they don't know what options they have. Again, one of the biggest challenges is that a lot of these entrepreneurs, they don't have a complete understanding of the SBA program and really what's available to them. And when they find out, they're usually very surprised, very shocked, and it's always great to see when they utilize any of these programs to help their business.
There's a disconnect a lot of the time with small business owners that don't really understand, well, what's the difference of an SBA loan and just going to the bank and getting a loan? And then each banking institution has a little bit different process to access that SBA loan. So maybe you can share just a little bit about that to create better clarity.
Sure. And that's a fantastic question because the common misnomer out there is that when you hear the term SBA loan, it makes sense to think that the SBA is actually funding that loan, but that's not what's happening. And as you pointed out, the SBA does is we encourage them to write these loans by giving them what we refer to as a guarantee. We will guarantee sometimes up to 90% of that loan to the bank. By giving the guarantees to the lenders, it really gets them excited. It gives them more latitude to make loans for those businesses who may not qualify on what we call a conventional loan program.
Is there anything else that our audience should know about the SBA or the Small Business Development Centers? Anything else you want to share?
I would say take advantage of it. The SBA is just a wonderful program. So many services are available. Visit sba.gov, talk to your local lenders. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. It's never a problem. If I can help you, if I can point you in the right direction, I'm always happy to do that.
So Troy, when we first met you, it was under a different umbrella than where you sit today. And we've had a relationship for a really long time. And it's because of our relationship with you that we were able to help so many people during COVID. You and your people showed up multiple times a week, in the beginning every day, to update not only Bruce and I, but the entire organization on PPP money, applications, struggles. You answered endless questions. There must have been hundreds of them during that time, morning, noon, and night. We all worked with our bankers and with the small business owners to help get everybody what they needed. And that all happened. I mean, 6 years later, people are still talking about what we did for them and how we supported them and their clients during COVID. But we talk a lot about relationships here. And it was only because of our relationship with you that all happened. And of course, your staff was incredible and showed up. Erica showed up for us, all the time. So I'm really glad you're here. And maybe you could share a little bit more about that and then how you became to sit in the seat that you sit in today.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me today, first of all. It's always great to see you.
Glad you're here.
Yeah. So, when we were in the throes of the pandemic, I remember both you and Bruce reached out and said, hey, we've have a, pretty significant membership here that could use some help. So at the time I was with the Small Business Development Center at SUNY Farmingdale, which ironically is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. So the SBDCs are out there to help small businesses, and they receive funding from the federal government in conjunction with states. So at that time, I was working for the SBDC as a business advisor. And so when you reached out, we were immediately ready to jump in and help. And as you said, it was frequent calls, morning, sometimes evening with members, one-on-one consultations, just to try to help them navigate with all that was going on at the time, which I think everybody would agree we're so glad that's in the rearview mirror.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. And I really just bring it up because I want people to know not only you are a resource today, right, for the SBA, but you have a deep, meaningful knowledge about what's gone on in the last 6 years. So you really do understand a small business owner's need, and maybe what they've lived through in the last 6 years, so many. But again, you were able to help dozens, if not hundreds, and maybe even thousands of people that we're connected to because we had our folks invite their clients, right, to
mhm,
listen to what you
mhm,
all were saying. But also our CPAs, our attorneys, even our bankers came to
mhm,
you for advice, support, guidance, questions. And all of that happened because of a relationship we have,
mhm,
right? What we had at the time, that relationship has only deepened and strengthened because of what we've been through together.
mhm.
And it's critically important. This podcast is called the Ultimate Client Strategy, which ultimately means holding your clients and people at the forefront of everything you do, of the decisions you make, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
anyway, yes, we are all
You,
grateful that it's in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, 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 and you mentioned relationship, and our relationship preceded the SBDC when I was a
Oh,
banker, and I met Bruce and kept in touch that way, and it just
yep.
we remained in touch, and I remained involved, and um, the relationship aspect of what ARG offers, and this is my plug for you guys, is that it's really what you make of it, right? I've met such great people through the two of you and through ARG that continues to this day. And I can tell you that I've reached out to members of the group for personal needs. I'm dealing with something right now, and it was by way of an introduction from Bruce a few weeks ago. And I'm a big believer in things happening for a reason and people being
Yeah.
brought into your life for a reason. And this was just one of Bruce's typical calls. Hey, I'd like to introduce the two of you. This person needs some help with something, and then it turned out that I needed help personally from that person. So it's really fantastic how that works, and the core of any interaction is the relationship. So I'm glad you pointed that out because it couldn't be more true.
To have an expression that I've shared for years and years, people matter most.
Hmm.
We're all problem solvers. We all can sort through a lot and solve some pretty significant complex problems. But
Absolutely.
at the heart of all of that, what does that person need? What does that
Hmm.
human need? People matter most.
Yeah.
So Troy, I know what you just shared about local small businesses and the support there, but share a little bit about your current role today with the SBA.
Sure, sure. So I am with the U.S. Small Business Administration. My role here, my official title, if you will, is Lead Lender Relations Specialist. So my primary responsibility is to deal directly with lenders that serve the business owners within our geographic territory. So that territory for me is pretty expansive. It's the Lower Hudson Valley, 5 boroughs, and all of Long Island. So
Wow.
every lender that does SBA lending within that territory, that's who I support to ensure that our loans are getting out there and helping the people who need them most. So that's essentially the bulk of what I do. I do deal with business owners directly still, which I love. So I tell business owners my door is always open, my phone is always available. I get calls all the time. I'm always willing to help. It's a chance for me to get away from being drowned in policy and SOPs, which I deal with. But at the end of the day, everything that we do at this agency is for small business owners. That's where it all trickles down to. So I'm always willing to speak one on one and help on an individual basis if needed.
So what are you finding to be currently the biggest challenges of small business owners in today's environment? What are some of the significant challenges that you're seeing repeatedly over and over again?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's always a challenge or a an interest in obtaining capital for a
Sure.
business. Cash flow is king, as we say. So a lot of business owners understand that they have a need for assistance, but a lot of them really don't know where to go and they don't know what options they have. Okay. At the SBA, let me back up a second. So what I find is that a lot of business owners, their first entree into the SBA world was unfortunately the pandemic, right? That's how a lot of them, that's how SBA became a household name. A lot of businesses, kind of knew that the SBA was out there, but a lot of them didn't. There is so much more that we offer beyond disaster assistance. And that's through our everyday capital access programs, our 7A program or 504. So these are loans that really are structured with a lot of advantages for business owners. And again, one of the biggest challenges is that a lot of these entrepreneurs they don't have a complete understanding of the SBA program and really what's available to them. And when they find out, they're usually very surprised, very shocked, and it's always great to see when they utilize any of these programs to help their business.
I think one of the things you just said, and I've come across this with folks over the years, they don't understand that the SBA develops the program for the government, but that it's executed upon through an actual bank,
Right.
right? There's a disconnect a lot of the time with small business owners that don't really understand, well, what's the difference of an
Yeah.
SBA loan and just going to the bank and getting a loan? And then each banking institution has a little bit different process to access that SBA loan. So maybe you can share just a little bit about that to create better clarity.
Sure. And that's a fantastic question because the common misnomer out there is that when you hear the term SBA loan, it makes sense to think that the SBA is actually funding that loan. But that's not what's happening. And as you pointed out, it's the partner banks that are actually cutting that check. So what the SBA does is we encourage them to write these loans by giving them what we refer to as a guarantee. I tell folks, think of it as an insurance policy, if you will. We will guarantee sometimes up to 90% of that loan to the bank. So if in the unfortunate occurrence that loan defaults, the lender can come to the SBA and say, we'd like to put our guarantee into effect, and then the SBA will do their due diligence. And at the end of the day, that lender is made whole up to that percentage. So by giving the guarantees to the lenders, it really gets them excited and makes them, it gives them more latitude to make loans for those businesses who may not qualify on what we call a conventional loan program.
So talk about the interest rate that the SBA loans provide, because that's pretty standard regardless of the institution. So there are parts of the loan, and I'm questioning, not you, but wanting folks to understand better, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs that are new, right, to wanting to access an SBA loan. There are some standardizations within the SBA loans, regardless of lender. But the lender is, in fact, the one that cuts the check. So the process might be a little bit different, right?
Right. Yeah. So with regard to rate, I would say that, that depends on a lot of factors, right? And that's going to come into play with your experience in the business, whether it's a startup, whether it's a more tenured business. All of those things come into play when determining not just the rate, but whether or not that lender is going to extend their hand and say, we'd like to make this loan to you.
Right.
I tell business owners that, lending is all about mitigating risk. I tell them, think about it as one of those, double-sided scales. The goal is to get things to balance out, but that's a perfect world, and it's very rare that happens. So you may have strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in others. So the lender's going to look to balance that risk out and determine what does it look like for them. And the whole goal is getting that loan repaid and moving on to the next borrower. So interest rate comes into play based on their underwriting. Interest rate can be negotiable. So I tell borrowers to keep that in mind. So
from one institution to the next, there might be a slight difference in the interest rate, even though they are both SBA loans, correct?
Correct. There could be a variation, but I find that lenders are pretty much in the same ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I tell folks on the smaller deals, on the smaller loans, because it's kind of wired in a lot of us, especially business owners, where the first thing we want to know is what's the rate? What's the rate, right?
Yeah.
So I think back to my days as a banker, where I would deliver a loan approval to someone across the desk, and they would start squirming, and their immediate concern was, well, I don't like the rate. And it could have been maybe for a $20,000 or $25,000 loan. So I would throw it back to them and say, well, what rate did you want? And some people would be taken aback. They didn't know what to say, or they would come and say, hey, I would like it a point less or whatever. Okay. We'd run the numbers on it. My point is, don't always get caught up on the rate, because the rate that you get approved for and the rate that you had in your head, if you run the loan payment, it may be inconsequential, right? At the end of the day, the funds that you're seeking, that you're going to deploy for your business, what is that going to do for your bottom line? How is that going to help you grow? So focus on the bigger picture, and not just rate all the time.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So what would be somebody's first step? Should they go to the SBA website and find the lenders that in their area that, work with SBA loans? Can they come directly? Should they go directly to their lender and try to discuss that? What would a business owner's first step be to find access to where they might apply?
Sure. Another great question, and they have a lot of options. So SBA.gov is full of a ton of information for business owners. I hear it all the time. When people go check out the SBA website, they're just beyond impressed with the wealth of information that's on there for all levels of entrepreneurs, whether you're starting up or you've been in business for 30 years. When it comes to seeking that loan, that's really up to the business owner. I tell folks it makes sense to start where you bank, right? If your business is already in operation and you've been doing this for a while, start where they know you. If by some chance they decline you, don't give up. There are other options. There are other lenders. There are other pathways to getting that capital that you need. Another great place to start, and this is for businesses who are just starting out, is start out with one of our resource partners. We mentioned the SBDC earlier, the Small Business Development Centers. All of their services are free and confidential. One of the things that they excel in is helping folks prepare to get a loan. They know what banks have appetites for which industries. They can save a lot of time for that business owner in directing them to an institution that may have a high propensity to do that loan. The last thing I would say is on SBA.gov, we have a portal called Lender Match, which allows folks to put in very basic information about themselves and their business. And then we take that in the back end and we match that entrepreneur up with up to 5 lenders that have a high degree of interest in that loan in their industry. Then it's up to them to reach out to whoever they see fit.
That is great. Okay, so that's lending.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk just for a minute about the small business development centers that are all over the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they provide a variety of opportunity for small businesses to get educated in areas that they may be not knowledgeable. I'll leave it at that. They may hold expertise in the field that they're opening a business, right? But they may not have the experience of running the business. Right. So the small business development centers can be very helpful there, right?
Absolutely.
And I know they provide, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything, but they provide education, they provide programming on endless subjects that business owners need, right? And need support in. Mm-hmm. What else do they do? Why else should a business owner contact their small business development center?
Mm-hmm. Great question. What I found in my time there as an advisor, and I was there for about 5 years, it's the fact that business owners, it could be a very lonely existence when you're running your business. Everything's on you. So to surround yourself with a good team of people, whether it's your accountant, your attorney, or whoever it may be, it just gives that business owner, the support that they need, and that they may not even realize that they do need. So the SBDCs really step in to that end first and foremost. Then it's about finding out what does that specific business owner need help with, and they drive the ship. So if they come in and say, I need to get a business loan, that's really where the starting point is going to be. And we mentioned the importance of relationships. It's really up to that business owner how they want to develop that relationship. Some folks come in, it's just a very specific need they require assistance with, and then they go off onto their own way. Some folks develop a long lasting relationship where they come back and say, "Hey, I've got a question about this now." Another great thing about the SBDC is that they really welcome connecting with outside professionals, because there's a chance and often a likelihood that a client's going to need an accountant. They're going to need an attorney.
Sure.
So they look to develop those relationships with area professionals so they can do a warm introduction or a handoff for a client and say, listen, you really need to get a bookkeeper. You really need to speak with an attorney about this space that you're going to lease. SBDCs are very knowledgeable in a lot of areas, but they also identify when it's time to bring in specific experts in a specific area. So they can save people a lot of time, a lot of money. They can connect them with fantastic local professionals, and it's just a great place to start.
I know that when you were with them, you accessed many of our people to share with folks that needed support and help. So I know that
Absolutely.
process works really well for
Yeah.
folks. So Troy, we've known each other. I mean, it's over a decade. Know each other
Yeah.
a long time.
Crazy.
And I just want folks to know that, you have interests and hobbies just like everybody else. So there's one of the things I've always admired about you is you work with your hands. You really love to build things.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I think you were building some really cool things for outside. Do you still do that work?
Yeah, I don't. I did have an official business, a side business for that,
Oh,
for the folks paying attention at home. So I really enjoyed woodworking. I got into that over the years. When I bought my first house, I started realizing, hey, I need a saw. I need this tool. I need to fix something. And it just started, as many homeowners do, you start amassing and building a tool arsenal.
sure.
And I just really got into woodworking, and that developed into turning an old fence that I had in the backyard into a cooler for outdoor entertaining. I made it for myself. I posted it on Facebook, and then I couldn't believe the private messages people wanted one for their yard. So I said, hey, maybe I have something here. Long story short, I developed a business making these custom coolers for people's pool sides, for their decks. I've done some for celebrities. It really just took off, and I enjoyed it. It's a lot of hours, a lot of work. It was a release for me from the pressures of banking at the time when I was a banker. But it was a great side hustle. I don't do it anymore. I'm just busy with so many other things. But I can tell
Right.
you that the phone still rings, and people find me and say, "Hey, are you still doing these coolers?" And I have to say, "No, I'm not." But, "Oh, come on, could you please do one?"
Could
So,
you just do one more?
hey, just do one more and call it a day. I said, "I'd love to do that, but you know, they say never, but for right now, the tool belt is hung up for a little while. But you never know. You
You
never
never
know."
know. Troy, it's been so good catching up. Is there anything else that our audience should know about the SBA or the Small Business Development Centers? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I would say take advantage of it. It's there. The SBA is just a wonderful program. So many services are available. So much help is available. As I said earlier, a lot of people their first introduction to SBA was unfortunately during the pandemic, but a lot of folks received a lot of assistance, and there's so much more that we do. Visit SBA.gov. Talk to your local lenders. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. It's never a problem. If I can help you, if I can point you in the right direction, I'm always happy to do that.
That's great. Thank you again so much for spending some time and sharing a little bit more about, past that you've done and what your current role is. It's been
Well,
great to have you.
thank you for having me.